Welcome to another episode of African Mindset series. Today I just want to ask a series of questions and see how we get on. So, do you think African nations are independent? Do you think African nations are sovereign? Do you think colonization ended in 1960 or thereabouts? If your answer to all these questions is yes, then I'm going to ask you further questions. If African nations are independent, how come African nations do not determine the price of their raw materials? And how come African nations do not trade in their own currencies on the global market? How come, for example, all the trade is conducted in dollars, in euros, and probably in yuan soon enough, depending on how, you know, China grows in influence? And do you also realize that there are conclaves in, for example, DRC Congo, or enclaves rather than conclaves? There are enclaves in, for example, DRC Congo, which are no-go areas for any other, even the local authorities, other than, say, Chinese firms. Do you realize there are enclaves where American firms operate and where you need permission, local authorities need permission in order to go there, and sometimes the Americans refuse? So who accounts for how much? For example, these American and Chinese corporations exploit from those mines. The Chinese, for example, do not give any account whatsoever in some of these areas, which is meant to be for artisanal mining. And artisanal mining under DRC laws should only be done or undertaken by the locals. But helicopter footage that I've seen actually shows that the Chinese are operating full industrial scale mining, and they do not account for it, they don't pay taxes on it, and they use local people almost as modern day slaves in those mines. And the saddest part is they do so with the permission of corrupt local leaders who allow them full access to those areas. They allow them to flout the laws of the country, and they can do whatever they like. And they also have armed military presence protecting Chinese interests. Can you believe that in Africa? I'm going to post the link there for you to watch the video. It's in French, but with English subtitles. So the looting of this continent is aided and abetted by our leaders. And the sad part is that the local villages in those regions are so disillusioned that they don't trust the leaders anymore, to the point that even if somebody comes in and want to redress the situation and shut down those Chinese mines, would you believe it? The locals will probably go on the streets and protest, because at least the Chinese are paying them something, even though it's pittance, and they are treating them like modern day slaves. So this is what we are up against as Africans. I want to keep talking about this to make the youth angry, to make the youth want to reclaim the dignity of Mother Africa, to make us not settle for pittance, to not allow others to come in and treat us as second-class citizens in our own country. And meanwhile, we are running to Europe, we are running to China, we are running to all those places. But the reality is, it's in Africa that all these nations make their money. And they make their money flouting our local rules, or sometimes, obviously, using legal neo-colonial structures to their benefits. I mean, the majority of Africa's resources is controlled by Western corporations and Chinese corporations. And this issue that I mentioned about DRC in particular is replicated across all of Africa. So you have approximately, 70% of the mines controlled by corporations, and the 30% in DRC that is meant for local artisanal mining is now being controlled by a Chinese mafia, literally, protected by corrupt local entities. Now, my question to the African youth is that, we need to stop being satisfied by the crumbs from the table. We need to stop fooling around, dancing to music when our continent is burning. Your inheritance is literally being taken away from you by your corrupt leaders in conjunction with these multinationals and with these Chinese mafias. And we are sitting there dancing to music as if nothing is happening. Go to the rural areas, even in Ghana, rural areas, our water bodies, destroyed by illegal mining. The same thing is happening in DRC Congo. We cannot sit there and allow this situation to go on. We cannot sit there and just moan and moan and moan. There's power in the multitude. There's power with the people. We should make ourselves, the youth of Africa must make themselves ungovernable by these corrupt officials. Take it up to them. Descend on the streets. Organize, unite, and be disruptive. There's no point being so docile and so accommodating when people are destroying and exploiting your continent, and it's been going on for centuries. And our leaders are selling our resources to the highest bidder. Well, they are not even selling, they are giving it to the highest bidder and then lining their pockets. And the youth are sitting there quietly, moaning and talking. The only language African leaders understand is action. And let me tell you, they can only have so many rounds of bullets. They cannot kill the millions of Africans if we all rise up. So it's time to wake up, people, and it's time to say enough is enough. It's time to stand up for Mother Africa and the dignity of her children. Instead of trying to run away to other nations, it's time for all of us to invest, because the grass is greener where you are. We need to invest our time and effort in Africa. And for those of us who are away already, it's time to look back. It's time to return. It's time to invest. It's time to collaborate with our brothers and sisters on the continent and make this work. We need to take the fight to these corrupt leaders, and next, take the fight to these corporations. We can do it. It's our continent. We have a right to defend it, and we have a right to expect that the vast resources of the continent benefits the local people. Enough is enough. Thank you.